Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, and we're going to have a fun one today. We're doing the tier list, right? We're going to be ranking all of the Alpha Class TCG contenders through 4 different categories, kind of give you a good idea of maybe where your favorite contender stands as we're going into the first full year of organized play within the game. And the fun part about this tier list is because there hasn't been as much high-level events in this game yet, and we're like in the infancy of it, a lot of this is just, speculation for fun. Now, I do think I have a decent gist of where these contenders fall, but I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. So when you watch this, if you disagree with something, let me know down below. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're here for Alpha Clash content, feel free to stick around. I'm going to be doing a lot of it. I've done a lot in the past. You can check out my Alpha Clash playlist. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. We'll get right into it. So I did 4 different sections here, right? We have the high skill ceiling, which to me is kind of how it sounds, where it's in the hands of a very talented TCG player. This might be the best deck in the room and can just win because they're going to maneuver each thing properly. But in the hands of a normal player, they might not know. There's a lot of decision points that you might trip up on, and you might not play the deck to its full potential. Now, every deck has a full potential, but these ones really do. Then you have the Demand Answers deck, right? This is the pseudo tier 1 if you don't have a way of dealing with the deck. Right now, I do think there's 1 or 2 contenders that are better and that have, are ahead above the rest, and I'll talk about those when I get there. But the thing that both really demand answered, both like tier 1 decks, in my opinion, have is you can counter them. They do have answers. But if you let them do their thing, and they're not easy counters, but they're counterable, but if you let them do their thing, they're just going to roll over you. And that's what the Demand Answers category really is for. The next one is consistent. So these are contenders that have a good game plan, have a very solid ability to them, and they're able to, just through good mechanics and good play, be able to win most games and always kind of be in that top 8 category, in my opinion. And then finally, need support. These are contenders right now that I think because we're in the infancy of the game, we're about to release the 3rd full set. We've had 2 sets. We have a draft reprint set, and now we're about to have our next set in Unrivaled. I think these contenders just need a little bit more support, and once they get it, they'll be fine. So getting right into it, we'll start with the high skill ceiling. The first one is Clarity. Opting is a really big deal with Clarity. Her ability to opt to see what she's drawing into and really pick that is a very, very powerful ability. She also has some crazy bombs at the end game, right? She is a slow, methodical deck, not really control aspect per se, but defensive until she finds her power cards. But she really displays, almost in the truest form of high skill ceiling, being able to opt your deck correctly, see what you're drawing into, be able to, sculpt your hands and play your hands accordingly based off that, be able to use your early game Haven drops in order to buy time for your mid to late game, which is where you're strongest with Clarity. I think, in the hands of a very skilled pilot like Dagan White, really good pilot that ended up winning one of the higher level events early on with her or doing really well with her, I think that's, she is the epitome of high skill ceiling in this game right now. And if you're looking to improve just your overall mechanics while also playing a pretty strong hero, and you want to kind of, win with your play more so than just the hero ability and get better in that aspect, Clarity's probably the best for you. The next one that's in the high skill ceiling to me, and this one was very hard, but I think Death is also high skill ceiling. Her ability can be disparaging if you don't use it properly, and I think her ability is kind of on a hairpin at all times, and because of that, she's in the high skill ceiling. She works very similar to Clarity, where she's on this constant balancing act of seeing, maneuvering, and sculpting your deck properly in order to get to that mid to late game to really punish your opponent. Nothing much more to say about her. Very, very powerful deck. One of the best 8-drop, I think it's 8-drop, one of the best late game drop cards in the game right now. That card just is like a win card, right? So because of that, I put her in the high skill ceiling. Any deck that's really playing for that mid to late game in this current iteration of contenders, I think is in the high skill ceiling. And then the final one is Pestilence. Pestilence is very strong, but the 20 hit life, right? You're playing on a dangerous axis, and because of that, it's going to take a really skilled pilot to keep this deck consistent. This is like the Levia of Alpha Clash right now. It's a deck that can kill itself if you don't do it properly. 20 life is very scary when you have heroes like Machina and Torque, which we'll talk about here in a second, that can literally hit that life threshold in one turn if they're doing the right thing. So because of that, it's very, very high skill ceiling. Next one is Demand Answers. So I'm going to put both decks in here. We're going to talk about them. I think both of these decks are the de facto tier 1 decks because of several reasons. One, they have very powerful abilities. And two, they're the two decks in the game right now that demand your respect in terms of sideboard slots and in terms of, being able to force them to get off their game plan. Torque's ability to play Dork the Diabolical, play Here Comes the Boom, slap your opponent for 10 and just go nuts is very, very strong, right? And its removal is very good, especially if you play it in the red-blue. It's just a hero. It's like almost like Kano, not quite as crazy for my Flesh and Blood fans, so it doesn't play on Kano's axis, but it does play Kano in the way of if you let them assemble the combo and you do not disrupt that combo or have a way to prevent that combo or slow down that combo, they are just going to kill you. And the deck is extremely good at doing that. And the deck has very good removal, very good damage, both clash and non-clash damage. It has very annoying cards. It's 2-drop that says, when it's obstructed, it equals its attack power gets raised equal to the power of the card defending it, which means it basically has Death Touch. It has cards that deal damage to multiple cards when obstructed. Like it does a lot of stupid stuff. So you have to really apply pressure to it or have removal, especially low drop removal, which there's a lot of it in the game, to be able to deal with this deck and really slow it down. A deck like Clarity does really well in the Torque usually because she's able to utilize that defense and that removal in order to stop its combo. The next one's Machina. Machina is arguably the best deck in the game right now. Its ability to Machina's ability deals 2 damage whenever you remove a non-trap accessory from your freaking side of the board. So, and then you can just run like 20 1-drop, non-trap accessories and then just destroy them and then deal 2 damage to your opponent. So and you draw a card when you do that. So you basically deal 2 damage, draw a card, deal 2 damage, draw a card, deal 2 damage, draw a card every single turn once per turn. So you put your opponent on a clock. If your opponent cannot apply enough pressure to you and threaten your life total, Machina literally will just kill you through like casual damage. And then once you get down to like sub 10, you're on like a 4-turn clock, 5-turn clock to kill them. So you have to have good removal. You have to have good pressure. They are at 25 life, which helps a little bit, right? Opponent like Torque does really well in the Machina, in my opinion, because Torque can pressure Machina. And do really well with that. But Machina, again, demands an answer where if you do not deal with what they're trying to do, or more so with Machina, if you do not apply the pressure in order to stop them from their clock, this is the looming doom of Alpha Clash right now. Definitely a hero I see being a problem. And these 2 heroes are really poised to win Vegas, in my opinion. These 2 and Clarity, I think, are the top 3 right now. But that's kind of where I'm at. Then we get the consistent category. We have a lot of good consistent heroes. The top of them, in my opinion, is War. War just does really good stuff. Being able to make 1/1 drops and being able to, buff your stuff is really nice. It can just scatter the board with aggro. And when it comes to, early on in card game metas and card game life cycles, go wide aggro is always really good. And War is the epitome of like, low cost burn almost in this game. So definitely a solid hero. The next one is Magnate, right? Being able to give 1 defense to all your alphas. I mean, you're just playing on a slightly better rate than your opponent at all times. And then also making your opponent discard when you're sub 10 life is also very, very good to end games and get that card advantage. Magnate's biggest issue is card draw, but he uses other colors to supplement that, as well as his 1-drop that gives you a draw on defeat. And doing like green-white to gain that card draw, or even green-red to really play into the alpha mechanic of getting +1 defense to all your alphas is really, really nice. So Magnate's kind of the next in the terms of the consistency pool for the game. And honestly, I think it's probably the most consistent hero. I just put War slightly above him because of War's power in the go-wide strategy, but that's kind of where I'm at. Then you have Conquest. Being able to get +1 offense on your turn with your Conquest cards is awesome. It's similar to Magnate, where you're just going to outvalue your opponent at all times. It really puts your opponent the margins of defense in this game are so razor thin, right? Like, one power makes so much difference in this game, like more so than most games, and it makes Conquest very efficient on offense. The problem with Conquest is it does create a deck building restriction, right? His splash ability is still just as okay as most other heroes, but also, like, your power cards are your Conquest cards most of the time, and if you can, they can remove those. You don't find them. It can just make you kind of have a blank hero text and potentially hurt you a little bit. Then the last two consistents are the Mean Streak. I love Mean Streak so much. I want Mean Streak to be good. The problem with Mean Streak, I think, and the reason I don't put it in need support, because it has good support and it can really do some crazy stuff. The 5-drop to basically continuously generate card draw is amazing, but it requires a lot of moving parts for not as much power, right? Like, Torque has less moving parts, but more power, right? Machina, less moving parts, more power. You have to juggle so much with this deck, with both of these decks, to get those streak counters going, and sometimes you just don't have enough time, and it can really hurt you. But once you get it going, like, once these two get their mean streak counters going, they're like all the way up here. But you got to get them going in order to do that. So because of that, I have them down here. The Clash Kit, I think Mean Streak has a lower ceiling than, like, the generic Mean Streak, but it also is higher floor, more consistency, just the way I kind of put it. And then finally, the two that need support are Moxie and Haven. Haven's the biggest one that needs support. Haven is the first control deck in the game where you're trying to win through an alternate win condition. Being able to, get those counters on your backpack and then, win the game through sheer counters is really, really good. The issue with it is it's a little bit too slow, and at 20 life, it can really just die. And until they find more ways to gain life or more ways to, like, mitigate damage, blue is really good for that. So she's already naturally in the color that does that, but there just needs to be a little bit more in the game, I think, to make this hero consistent. But it's a fun hero to play regardless. And then finally, it hurts my heart. Moxie's my favorite hero in the game, for anyone that doesn't know. They just need more support. The weapon-based system is very good, but it's lower rate. I actually look at Moxie, for all my Flesh and Blood fans out there, I look at Moxie the way I looked at Azalea pre-Outsiders, where it was just like, okay, she does a really cool thing, and if you can get her really big stuff out, it just destroys. But you basically rely on that, and right now her weapons are just too low value, right? They cost too much to get out right now and take up too much time. And it in order for Moxie to be good, in my opinion, from an outside perspective, you're going to have to give her weapons that could truly, like, overrate, and, like, to where the overrateness of the weapon kind of equals out the underrateness of how much it costs and the time it takes to get it out. Those have to create, like, a balanced synergy. So until she gets support, which I'm sure she will, she's just sadly not quite good enough right now. She doesn't have the combo power that the demand answer decks have. She doesn't have the consistency that especially these top three have, especially Magnate and War. And she doesn't have even the high skill ceiling, like, in-game potential that, like, Death and Clarity have. So until then, I think she needs support. But that's kind of where I have all the contenders. Again, this is super fun because there hasn't been a lot of high-tier events. But this is where I kind of rank them right now so far. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree, what your overall thoughts are. Would love to hear it from you. I'm just one player, just one person. Just make sure if you have a reason why you think something should be higher or lower, give me the reason why. I would love to hear it. But thank you all so much. Hopefully you all have a good rest of your week. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not, me, it's totally fine. Go to another creator, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff, help people out in their content journeys, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.